Well, I know it's late, but yesterday was the kind of game where I had to go get crossfaded afterwards. And then generally, when I get crossfaded, I go home and crash. And well, when I go home and crash in the evening, I end up in the middle of the night. So here I am with your middle of the night Insomniac Lunatic Fringe Giants postgame show after what was just, I could say, a massive gut check win in DC yesterday. The Giants come back from down 5-1 to take a 6-5 lead, lose that in a Ryan Walker blown save in the bottom of the ninth, have the winning run, almost get to third, but cut down by Drew Gilbert to end the bottom of the ninth. The Nationals had the bases loaded with no one out in the bottom of the 10th inning, but Ryan Walker, who was left out, was able to get out of that. And then the Giants were able to play to run in the 12th, and they barely hold on for a massive 7-6 win over the Nationals. So this is your Insomniac Lunatic Fringe Giants postgame show, production of Sports Radio Service. The views and language on the show do not necessarily reflect those of Sports Radio Service, its owner, my boss, Lee Leonard, or its sponsors. So the Giants, of course, pull out the emotional win in Cincinnati on Thursday. They win the series opener 10-5 in DC on Friday. Logan Webb going 6 innings, allowing 4 runs. Could have been better, but it wasn't Webb's worst outing, though Webb has not exactly been off to the greatest start here in 2026. So it's Adrian Hauser against Cade Cavalli. It was a mid-afternoon start in DC, 1 o'clock here on the West Coast, 4 o'clock on the East Coast. Hauser gave up a home run to James Wood. Just make sure the Wood, that people know the Wood there is singular, not plural. James Woods. James Wood hit a home run in the bottom of the first inning. Drew Gilbert tied the game with a base hit to right in the top of the second to knock in a run. Elliot Ramos scored on that. The Nationals would then score 4 runs in the bottom of the second inning to take a 5-1 lead. Casey Schmidt doubled 2 outs to knock in a pair in the top of the third. That closed it to 5-3. Elliot Ramos tied the game with a home run to left in the top of the 6th. Rafael Devers lined a base hit to left to knock in Willie Adames in the 7th. And things seemed to be going okay. Hauser, for his part, went 5 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 5 runs, 4 of them earned walk, 2 struck out, 1. Certainly could have been a lot worse. Ryan Barucki ended the bottom of the 6th. Eric Miller, who closed out Thursday's game in Cincinnati. I have no clue why he wasn't closing out yesterday's game. And, well, I really have no clue why he was in the 7th inning. He strikes out 2 in a 1-2-3 inning. Matt Gage, 1-2-3, bottom of the 8th. And what I really have no clue as to why is why Ryan Walker was brought in to close the game after what we saw from him late last season. The guy is a decent relief pitcher, but the guy is not made to be in the 9th inning. So when I saw that Tony had brought Walker in for the bottom of the 9th, I nearly lost my mind. I could not believe it. And I'm thinking, well, okay, we're stuck with this. And Jorbit Vivas, the leadoff man, 2 pitches in, lines a double off the end of the bat down the left field line. Drew Millis then, on the first pitch he sees, flies out to the track in right center to get Vivas over to third. So, 3 pitches, double, and a fly ball deep to the track. James Wood was put on. And now you got runners at first and third with 1 out. Curtis Mead at the plate. He hits a chopper along the line over to Chapman at third. Chapman has absolutely no chance at the double play, and throwing all the way across to first is even going to be a long shot. So Chapman decides to come home. And when you're coming home in that situation, up by 1 in the bottom of the 9th, you better be damn sure you're going to get the guy. You better be 100% sure. And he did. He made a great throw to Patrick Bailey, who applied the tag. Just a ballsy play by Matt Chapman. And after that play, it just felt like, okay, Chapman makes a great play. We're going to get out of this. Unfortunately, Brady House, no relation to Dr. Gregory House, flipped a single to center field. Wood scored the tying run Drew Gilbert then threw to third to get Curtis Mead out to end the inning. The Giants decided to challenge the timing play, whether Mead was tagged out before Wood stepped on home plate, but the call was confirmed and the tying run had scored. But Ryan Walker blew the save, was almost able to get out of it, and he actually was a strike away from getting out of it. But, well, now we're headed to extra innings. Bottom of the 10th, Joey Weimer pinch ran for Brady House, so he is the Manfred runner at second base. Walker is back out for the bottom of the 10th. Tony, what the hell are we doing here? So they put C.J. Abrams on, and then Jacob Young hits a ball off Ryan Walker's foot. It ricochets and deadens between the mound and third base. So now the bases are loaded with nobody out. And the Giants are about to lose what is going to be a horrible loss, a disastrous loss, coming within a strike of winning the game, to lose to one of the worst teams in baseball ahead of a series against the Dodgers next week, who are off to a 15-5 start, though actually they did lose tonight in Colorado. But Walker is able to strike out Dylan Lyle. Nazem Nunez is at the plate, and the count goes full. And sometimes, you've heard me announce on, live streams. So I decided to announce without the live stream, and it was 3-2, and I was about to say, and I was saying, all right, and here is the final pitch of the ball game. It's up. He walked him. Well, it almost was up, but it was quite outside. But Nunez swung and missed. Oh my God, we got the second out. Corby Vivas is at the plate. He hits a ground ball to short. Adames tries to run to the second. Luis Arias is not covering the bag at second. And Adames is a clear out at first base. But for whatever reason, Adames tries to get Jacob Young at second base. And Young slides in there ahead of Adames. He beats Adames to the bag, and I screamed at my TV, Adames, you idiot! Certain that his boneheaded decision had just cost the Giants the game, but he's able to fire across the throw to first to barely get Vivas. And, well, we're going to the 11th. And that was a boneheaded play by Willy Adames. It nearly cost the Giants the game. Giants go down in the 11th. Nationals go down scoreless in the bottom of the 11th. Giants are up in the 12th. Luis Arias is the Manfred runner. Cionel Perez is the left-hander on the mound for the Nationals, and Matt Chapman grounds a base hit to left field. Arias scores, and the Giants take the lead. So we go to the bottom of the 12th. Caleb Killian, who pitched the scoreless bottom of the 11th. He's in to start the game. Joey Weimar is the Manfred runner at second. C.J. Abrams flies out to left. Jacob Young lines out to Jung Hoo Lee in right. And then Killian gets Lyle looking on a fastball just above Denise to end the game. And some way, somehow, the Giants were able to pull off this win. And I get that it's April 18th. But, man, did they need that. And I get that maybe I'm overreacting here. But if they would have lost that game, as I mentioned, with the rough start they've been off to already, to lose that kind of game to one of the worst teams in baseball, and I don't know if I should call the Nationals one of the worst. They are a rebuilding team, but you get where I'm going at here. To lose, if they were to lose a game like that after the start they've been off to one of the worst teams in baseball, ahead of the 15-5 Dodgers coming in for a 3-game series on Tuesday, that could have been catastrophic. But the Giants, they showed some grit and determination yesterday in fighting their asses off to pull off what, to be honest, was an impressive 7-6 win. It was a very impressive win. They showed some real guts and determination there, and you got to give them credit for that. So prior to the game, Tony Vitello and his old Tennessee outfielder, Drew Gilbert, of course, people know Gilbert, played for Tony in Tennessee. And of course, we all know Gilbert's a throwback. He's kind of crazy. That's what we love about him. And last year, Matt Chapman would choke him out prior to the game. You guys have their real pregame routines. His pregame routine with Tony is where they do a pretend fight and throw a couple punches at each other. It was actually pretty fun to watch. Gilbert, as I mentioned, made the throw to third to end the bottom of the ninth. A great play. Mentioned knocked in the tying run in the top of the second with the base hit. He got 2 hits yesterday, going 2 for 5. Elliot Ramos is really finally starting to swing the bat. He had his first home run on the year Friday, went 3 for 5 yesterday, scoring 2 runs, knocking in 2. His average is up to 257. Jung-Hoo Lee, a 2 for 6 day, his average up to 253. Casey Schmidt, a 2 for 6 day, his average up to 317. Rafael Devers, he was able to get the hit in the top of the 7th that gave the Giants the lead. But, 1 for 6 isn't exactly the best day. Matt Chapman, 2 for 6. Arias, 2 for 6. His average is now 321. Oh, I forgot to mention Chapman's average, 294. Oh, I also forgot to mention Rafael Devers' average, 212. Willie Adames has slowed down over the past few days. 1 for 6 with a pair of strikeouts. His average is at 262. Patrick Bailey was able to get a hit, but he went 1 for 4. And other than the hit, he had a hat trick. His average is at 137. So just a very impressive win that the Giants desperately needed. And you can look at this game a lot of ways. You can look at it as the Giants had to basically fight for 2 wins against a rebuilding Nationals team. You can look at also the Giants came back from down 5-1 to take the lead. And then after coming within strike of winning the game and blowing it, were able to get to extra innings when the Nationals had the bases loaded with no one out in the bottom of the 10th. Ryan Walker was able to get out of that. And then the Giants were able to play a run in the 12th. And despite all of that, just the seesaw outcome of the game and all the emotions that were involved, the Giants were able to pull it off. So you could look at this multiple ways. You can look at it as the Giants struggling to beat a bad team, but also look at it as the Giants coming back, facing some real adversity, and some way, somehow, pulling a win out of it. It was a win they desperately needed, and if this season actually turns out to be something special, which I certainly hope it does, but my expectations aren't exactly that high, perhaps this will be the game that we look at where, we saw the true grit and determination of the 2026 San Francisco Giants. But I have got to mention, under no circumstances can Ryan Walker ever close another game again. Ever. Well, at least for the Giants. If the Dodgers want to have him close a game, fine by me. And Walker is a good pitcher. He's good, as a 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th inning guy. But under no circumstances should he be pitching in the 9th, especially to close games. And you look at Walker in the 9th and you look at Walker in the 10th, he was clearly scared. He was scared. You can't have a guy like that closing out games. Ryan Walker is not a closer. It is as plain and simple as that. And also, Adrian Hauser getting rocked for 5 runs in the first 2 innings, 4 in the bottom of the second, though of the 5 runs, 4 of them were earned. I'm trashing 2 people I like today. I am, for the first time, trashing Tony Vitello, who I think has done a good job. But Tony, what's going on here? Why are you using Ryan Walker? Jesus, Tony. And I've been trashing another guy, but I have been trashing a guy I like a lot lately, Mr. Posey, because, again, the best he could keep really didn't do anything to address the pitching, and the best he could do on the pitching side were Tyler Mahle and Adrian Hauser. We saw Tyler Mahle, just get shellacked in Cincinnati on Wednesday. We saw Hauser really struggle yesterday. These are the two best you can do. The Giants have one of the worst pitching staffs in all baseball. The bullpen, to their credit, and we've talked about the bullpen here, has not been anywhere near as disastrous as I thought they would be. Matt Gage is off to a good start with a 1.93 ERA. Eric Miller does have a 5.14 ERA, but the thing is, at this point of the year, when you're a reliever, one bad outing will totally balloon your ERA. And Miller has actually done a good job for the most part. There are some good signs coming out of this bullpen in Matt Gage and Eric Miller. And if the Giants can get Jose Butto back in a timely manner, that will help a lot. Ryan Walker is fine as long as he's not closing. The Giants do not have a good bullpen. It's definitely a bottom 5 bullpen in all baseball, but with the right moves and the right additions, which would include calling up Tristan Beck and Spencer Bevins, they could make this work. But the starting rotation has proven to be a big issue. Logan Webb has not been off to the best start. Robbie Ray's off to a solid start. But Tyler Mahle and Adrian Hauser, those are big question marks. Now, Landon Roop had a big start in Cincinnati on Thursday. But as I have mentioned time in and time out again since opening day, the Giants' offense is going to have to consistently hit. They're going to consistently have to do what they are built to do, and that is put the ball in play. Drew Gilbert, by the way, is 3 for 12 since he was called up. I think the Giants should have waited to call him up, but he is 3 for 12. Gilbert is someone who I believe could be a big part of the Giants' future. He's a slap hitter who puts the ball in play. One of his hits was a chopper up the middle that went into center field. Will Clark and I talk about how good hitting line drives is. We don't talk enough about how good hitting a ground ball to the right places. There's nothing wrong with hitting a ground ball to the right place. In fact, we should be teaching guys to be hitting ground balls to the right place. Hit them where they ain't. Tony Gwynn. Hit ground balls where there are openings. And I know it's a negative launch angle. Oh my God, a negative launch angle. What are we going to do? Well, sometimes a negative launch angle wins games because a launch angle is not a trustworthy stat. It's a joke stat. And launch angle shouldn't be used to determine how good a player is. So I mentioned on my last post game for Thursday's game, which I did on Friday, that guys should be making adjustments with less than 2 strikes in addition to 2 strike adjustments. And I mentioned this morning that in addition to hitting line drives, guys shouldn't be afraid to hit ground balls, especially up the middle. Remember Lou Brown to Willie Mays Hayes in Major League. With your speed, you should be hitting them on the ground and legging them out. There are far more ways than just one to play the game of baseball. Now, going back to Buster's offseason, was it that Buster showed a lack of urgency on the pitching side? Was it our cheap ownership group? I mentioned on my post-game late on Wednesday that I think it might be time for this ownership group to sell the team. And again, they've done a lot of good for the Giants and the city of San Francisco. But I think it might be time for Greg Johnson, Larry Barron Company to, after 33 years, sell this team. Because I think, they're cheap. As much as I've gone after Larry Bear over the years, he and I do have a lot in common. We're both stubborn, cheap Jews. We're very, when I go out to eat, I say, so which is going to be if I get this and that, would that be a cheaper option? We Jews are that way. Larry Bear and I, we are both stubborn Jews from Northern California. Larry Bear's never been my favorite guy, but I've always had a respect for him. And he's actually one of the better owners in baseball. It's a sign of how bad baseball owners are. And but this ownership group is cheap. With me, I can be cheap because I'm not a billionaire. Larry Bear is at the very least a multi-millionaire, maybe a billionaire. I don't know what his net worth is. But with this team, they should be willing to spend money, and something tells me they don't want to spend money. I think it also is the fact that, as I've mentioned a gazillion times on this show, Buster is rebuilding, and he's rebuilding in a way that, for the most part, I like, which is they are still trying to compete. But it's obvious but they're not being honest about it, because it's obvious they're rebuilding. They're trying to act like they're not, but it's obvious they are. And the overall focus of the organization right now is definitely building the farm and developing the farm over the current product on the field, as it should be. My only beef is that Buster should be putting a little more effort into the team at hand. How I look at it during a rebuild, a team in the offseason should be absolutely prioritizing, and overall actually should prioritize the farm over all else and not sacrifice the farm for the team at hand. But during the season, they should be doing what they can within the confines of the rebuild to go all out and try and win it all every given year. And I think Buster could be doing quite a bit more to be competing. As I said, I love the acquisitions of Luis Arias and Harrison Bader. Of course, Bader's been off to a rough start and could be due to his injury. Of course, he's on the IL. But Buster could have done so much better on the pitching side. And I'd give Buster, honestly, an A on the offensive side in the offseason, but a big fat F in terms of the pitching. So Robbie Ray, as I mentioned, off to a solid start, 2-2 with a 2.42 ERA. He's going to be up against the veteran right-hander Miles Mikolas, former St. Louis Cardinal. Also a former Padre and Ranger. Came with the Padres all the way back in 2012. Wow. It will be a 10:35 Pacific, 1:35 in our nation's capital first pitch. Giants do need the sweep because they are 9-12. And I hate to say it, but we shouldn't be expecting the Giants to win a game against the Dodgers. They're just too good a team. And yes, I get it. They lost tonight to the Rockies of all teams, but the Rockies of all teams, they're still the Rockies at Coors Field. And when you're at Coors Field, it's one of the greatest home field advantages in baseball. And it's really a shame that the Monforts aren't really trying to build a consistent winner, because with that fan base, which is a very passionate fan base in Denver, I was there when the Giants were competing with the Rockies for the wild card in 2009, man. That is an intimidating place to play. They've got the money there, they've got the fan support, and they've got one of the possibly the best home field advantage in all baseball. That team, if they truly wanted to, could be a consistent contender and even a champ, even a team that could build a dynasty. And it's a shame that they haven't, because as I've mentioned, possibly the best home field advantage in all baseball, passionate fan base, one of the best parks in baseball. Coors Field's a really beautiful park. A beautiful city. Denver's one of the most beautiful cities in the country. I just wish the Rockies would do more to compete. But anyway, let's not deviate too much. The Giants will be trying to get the sweep of the Nationals, and you need to get that, because if you can get the sweep of the Nationals, you're 10-12. Worst case scenario, you're swept by the Dodgers, you're 10-15. Then you got 3 against the Marlins. Because if, say, we lose today and then lose 3 to the Dodgers, then suddenly we're 7 games under 500 at 9-16, and that's not good at this point of the year. Giants have definitely looked like a much different team over the last 3 days. And as I look at it, I think this team's probably going to be a 500 team again. I really do. Sam Lubman and I have talked about that, probably, with the situation they're in, they're rebuilding, bringing in Tony Vitello. The playoffs this year is probably a tall ask. I would love them to make it. I've never really had any expectations that they will make the playoffs. But just at the very least, let's compete. I don't want to have a season where we're playing meaningless baseball by August. I want to be playing meaningful baseball in September. Meaningful baseball in September, especially in the final week of the season, is so much fun. It's so thrilling. Yes, it's also stressful and can be greatly upsetting, but it's worth it. It's an experience. And as I've mentioned so many times over the last couple of weeks, this team has too much talent not to, at the very least, compete and be in the hunt in September this season. So, Robbie Ray for the Giants, Miles Mikolas for the Nationals, 10:35 a.m. Pacific time, first pitch. Giants need to go get the sweep. All right. I'd like to thank my boss, Lee Leonard, because this is a production of Sports Radio Service. The views and language of this program do not necessarily reflect those of Sports Radio Service, Lee Leonard, or the sponsors of Sports Radio Service. I'm Stephen Rubin. I hope you enjoyed my middle of the night musings on this insomniac lunatic fringe Giants post-game show. Have a good night, folks. I'll talk to you soon.